Well, hey, Mr. Freeze. And sort of getting ready to work together. And so I wanted to get to know them a little bit. So I felt comfortable and I wanted them to feel comfortable with me. So we just sort of shared, yeah, one of those is yours, so you
Okay.
take what you need.
Okay.
So anyway, today I wanted to sort of talk about your role and what you've done with the coalition and sort of give an overview of that. And then I know you've given them thumb drives, and I'm not sure that they've had a chance to look at that yet, but maybe you'll talk a little bit about what you've put in.
We haven't gotten those yet.
Okay. Okay.
We're having technical difficulty on our end. We have these little thumb drives and we worked on them on the weekend. So we're still working on those. I've got most of the information transferred on another one that I had here. So I don't know whether it was the thumb drives that I was given or what it was, but it just
Don't want to be compatible.
no.
I don't know. And they were brand new. We ordered those specifically for that.
Right. So we're working on it. It will be done.
Okay.
And then if I get a
Well-
good copy, I'll just pass that one on and then maybe Miss Connie can transfer the information to another one.
Yeah,
That's
we can do that. Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Well, I mean, I know you wanted us to give an
I'm
overview.
gonna let y'all take the floor.
Well, I know you said you wanted to do an overview, Miss Dencie, but I just wonder exactly now, what would you like to know? I mean, I don't know how much you filled in to the ladies yet about what we've done in the past. And the future is kind of up in the air, I'm sure. I will say that when we got started in 2019, we were on phase two. Phase two. And there was a pilot phase that was initiated from Putnam County in New York and Washington County in Arkansas. And then we came in with phase two.
Behind
Yeah,
Wilmington.
they were on phase one and we came in phase two with New Hanover, Robinson, and Puerto Rico. And so with the intent that we were going to be hurricane preparedness, and gee whiz, the pandemic stepped in. So in the midst of that, everything that I think we were trying to do initially as we got started with the preparedness, we contacted organizations within Robinson County that we felt like would be good stakeholders, I guess you would say, to buy into this project that we were working with. And those were 8 sectors. And initially, I think we went for the hospital
Stephanie's office
and the EOC.
was the head.
Yeah, well, EOC was the lead on what we were trying to do. But we went with the emergency management, which was EOC, the hospital, and public schools of Robinson County, Department of Social Services, and the Partnership for Children. And we tapped into a private school, which was Antioch over in Lumberton. And so those were our 6 sectors. But along with that, social services took in the sheltering piece as well as the foster care. And then Partnership for Children had the child care sector piece that included all of our 8. We had 8 pieces in there. So that's in itself is a lot to take in, but we worked on that for about 1.5 years. And we did a community preparedness index along with that group. We got some good feedback from them. And
They hadn't done that in the past. We brought them to the table today.
Cindy just, and I'm gonna let her chime
No,
in
no,
wherever
no,
she wants
no,
to do that,
no,
but But we just want you to know that those groups had not worked together before, not on anything that we were trying to do with the initiative here. And so that was a good thing, bringing them together to, I guess, basically find out if they had a plan in place that specifically targeted children, or if their plan included children. And that's what the Resilient Children, Resilient Communities initiative was all about. And initially, when we got started, so that was the goal to include children.
And we found that some didn't have it. Go ahead, you can tell me.
And we realized that,
I want to stop you right here,
sure,
and just, expound a tiny bit on the Community Preparedness Index, because until I got into this, I did not know what that was. And I think it will be helpful if they sort of know, what that was and what that process looked like.
the Jonathan Surrey was our lead from Columbia. And now Jonathan placed out the survey, we'll call them surveys, but it was the Community Preparedness Index that each sector received after they decided that they would be a part of this. And they worked on it individually in their organizations to complete it, a questionnaire kind of information of the things that they, I guess, felt like they did have and they didn't have. And then all that information was then sent back to Jonathan for him to compile. They compiled it for us and then put out the report. Now that report, let's see, was it
That was
in,
a scoring report that was in July, June, July.
no, that was in October. We got the initial, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
June, July,
We
worked on it.
started the CPIs around in August. And so by November, last of October, 1st of November, we were able to see the scoring of how they were rated, the different organizations with the questions that they were given, with the intent that they would come back then after we worked together for another year to see if there would be any changes. Now, like I said, with the pandemic coming in and taking precedence over everything else that we were trying to do, the CPI took a different flavor, different color. We actually told the organizations that they didn't have to complete it, but we wanted them to take a look at it again and to see what had changed over that amount of time. And it was a significant change on some. I think public schools of Robeson County, they did a lot of change, and what, I'm not sure exactly, but there was some changes that occurred for them that were positive, and that was so noted on the second CPI that was administered. And that information, Ms. Dencie, I don't know that I have access to that. I'll look on my computer and see if by chance Jonathan had sent that to me, but I think it was, they shared out that information, and the file was so large that we didn't get a copy of it, but we can check on that.
And if I may interject right here, as I remember that Community Preparedness Index, it was a tool to help each of these agencies identify where they were with understanding child preparedness and what systems they had put in place in order to serve children. And so the whole point of the exercise was the pre-test, which was the early survey that they did, and then our work together as a coalition, doing some training and building that coalition of trust among the agencies, and then taking the post-test where you would see how your organization had implemented new strategies or put together a different focus for serving not only the adult populations that they serve, but also the children.
That is correct. We did a pre and a post, and that was the intent, to see if what we came together as a group, if it made a difference, if things changed. But like I said, I think there would have been more to see if our focus had not switched to the pandemic, and knowing that we were trying to get through that as well. But initially, the preparedness for the hurricanes and whatever else would come our way is what we were trying to do, helping everyone see how they needed to be more aware, and then making sure that their focus then could include children, or would include children.
Sylvia,
Yes,
let me
sir.
ask this question. If you think that there was more that we would have seen if things had been differently, what, in moving forward, what would this new team need to do to possibly readdress any of those areas of concern where maybe you didn't get to see what you needed to see, and possibly we could see more if some of that was readdressed as we move forward? Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
It does, Dr. Stedman, but at this point, I would think that with the ladies moving forward, if they would, and I hope, reconnect with all the areas that were a part of this initially for the post or the pre and the post CPIs. And like I said, let me see if we can get our hands on the actual final results so that you would know. And
that would be important for us to be able to look at. Wouldn't you think so, Dencie?
I would think so.
Yes.
Yes.
If there's a
Okay, yeah.
possibility, and then I am guessing that you have the contact information for each of those sectors on your thumb drive.
Oh, absolutely. We've got all the addresses, telephone numbers, and email addresses for each person that was a part of the group, the members, as well as the 8 sectors, or not 8, but there were 6. And like I said, 2 of them shared 2 different groups.
And Sylvia, if you and Cindy could do this, if you could reach out to them, if it's by an email or something of that nature, something to let them know that you and Cindy are, that you're no longer going to be working directly with it, but there will be others, and introduce him, and to please, thank them for their support, but please embrace the new people as they move forward, and maybe just identify who they're going to be. That would help tremendously, I think, in just paving the way forward.
I think it would, Dr. Stedman. Now, I can't help but go back to the pandemic. With that taking place, I know that there's 2 areas, the hospital as well as social services. We've had a very difficult time trying to keep them in the loop,
Right.
because of, I guess, what they had been dealing with themselves with the pandemic.
Right.
Now, I was hoping to make that call and see if they could be on board for the meeting on September, but I don't know. I don't know whether that's going to actually happen or not, but I'm going to make an honest effort in trying to make that happen.
Right.
And so that they can at least see our new 2 persons that are coming on board, and let them know that we would like for them to continue working on this.
And Dencie, we can reach out to Bill Smith as well, and we can reach out to Denise at Social Services, and that may help as well, because they may just make it a point, if they can't, to have somebody to fill in for them so that they can be represented. You do your part, Sylvia, and Dencie and I are going to reach out. 2 of those people are on our CIS board.
Okay.
So
And that's good.
And Lowry Dove also would be a good one to contact, Danny.
Who?
Lowry Dove.
For the hospital. For the hospital.
Lowry Dove.
Yeah, and I can speak to Lori, blessed day. She is so stretched out right now. She is just, it's hard to find. I mean, she's my new chair, and she's having to take her lunch time to even come and sign documents right now because she doesn't have any extra time, but I will reach out to her.
Those were the two areas that were not a part of the post-test information that was shared by Jonathan and Jeff, what they did, what we did through the Zoom meets. And so I don't even know whether they're aware of the outcome as relates to all others.
And if you can get that information, if you have access to it and put it in Dencie's hands, it may be that a one-on-one with them, we can say, can you please figure out how to get this information for us, and we can take it from there. So, I mean, we can still try to get the post information from them.
Okay. But if I were gonna offer anything, that's what I would say, is trying to
Okay.
go back in and build up the relationships that were in place, and maybe it can be done, maybe it can't, just because of the time frame that we're in with the pandemic. But I think it's important because of where we're at with the hurricane season. I mean, we're seeing it every day, and we know that it's approaching. And so to make sure that everyone is as prepared as possible is going to be in our best interest. The schools, I think, like I said, they did a lot of things to change where they were at in terms of getting information out, and how it pertained to making sure that the parents were as prepared as possible too. So they've done their part, I think. I think they're up to speed, if you will.
Included in their sector too.
Yeah, but it's a couple of the other ones that I'm just not sure of. What would happen if the hurricane came, like we experienced with Matthew and Florence, and or more, and we not be ready. And so, I mean, I just don't know about that. No crystal balls at this point in time. But I will say that I think Cindy and I will be more than happy to, along the way, if there's any questions, direct questions that you have, that you want us to try, and things that you want to try and help you with, be more than happy to, until things get moving along and you're quite comfortable with what you're doing. I intend to box up the hard copies that we have here of things that we do, and like I said, we're gonna make copies of the flash drive, and make sure you get that in your hands. But it's going to be different. I think that Dr. Stedman said that this was not necessarily following the same guides as, or the goals, the same goals that we had in place when the Resilient Children, Resilient Communities Initiative began. It's a matter of looking at what is needed right now, and working with the schools, I guess with the KB Reynolds grant that came in, and using Ms. Defreece, making sure that she's a part of what's going to be going on, and inclusion there, that it can be catered to what's needed for Robeson County.
Yeah, and I don't think the goals, I don't think our goals are going to change. I think maybe the focus may change some,
Yeah.
but I think the goals will still be the same.
Okay. All right.
If you feel like we're ready to move on, I'd like for you to talk a little bit about the Facebook page.
Megan Miller, please reach out. Make sure that you know who Megan Miller is. Now, I checked the Facebook page today. The last post was done about 4 hours ago, I think. She has been really excellent in terms of, I think that's her niche, of putting information out there that is pertinent to children as well as parents, whomever is able to see the Facebook. There was a team of 7, I think we initially started out with, and that kind of dropped off. There are some good things out there on the Facebook, and that was taken from, let's see here, the information. I think we had 3 areas that we were going to look at, and that was the one that stood out the most because the young people that we were working with, that was their way of communicating. So Facebook is something that I hope the 2 of you like, enjoy, and want to be a part of, because that's where it's at in terms of getting things out. There is a large, well, there's about 400 and some people,
Likes,
yeah, and I can't say too much about the Facebook because I'm not. Facebook was just not my thing in terms of knowing how to use it, knowing what to do with it. But I know that it's reaching individuals that that need to see this information, and it's, like I said, pertinent information. The
Well,
last,
And
the
let
last,
me say this too, Megan has a new job. She's actually has left Shining Stars, and she's at Long Branch Elementary School. She's a kindergarten teacher now. So we've got to try to communicate with her principal to see if he's going to allow her to be a part of our monthly meeting. She would love to do that, but she cannot do that without his permission. So we'll figure that out, Dencie, with that. But then we also have, Emily, that is a paid position, briefly, somewhat with KBR. So we can use Emily as well with some of the Facebook stuff that we need, because that is a part of, she gets paid for that each month.
Well, I've pulled up the Facebook page and we're looking at that right now. And so, it's very easy to see. You go to these links, you click on the links, and then that brings up information on that 411 topic.
right,
If that's what you are looking at, or be prepared for emergencies.
Yeah, Megan does an amazing job.
Oh,
She really she's passionate about what she does.
she does. And like I said, I don't know where she finds that kind of time, but I know what she was doing with Shining Stars, that she had the latitude to kind of work on some of that. And some of the information that she's pulled, I think, is something that's been shared with public schools in Robinson County as well.
Right.
So it's worked out great with her adding the pieces to it. And we started out with background information and the vision statement and the mission statement, which is to your left, I guess, on the Facebook.
right.
And so if the ladies haven't seen that yet, be sure and let them know that that was something that the group, the team worked together on and completed. And that's kind of where we're at with the communications piece, the task force there. Jonathan had said that he was going to provide us with any other information that we might need. But I think Jonathan's been in school, and that's kind of set him back a little bit. And so we haven't had a whole lot of his time for about 4 months, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think I do know that Megan has a passion, and she certainly is skillful with Facebook, and her work with exceptional children and now with elementary age children. She goes to sites and sees that. She gets information from public schools and the organizations that she's part of, and so she's filtering that and throwing it up on Facebook, and I think we'll continue. But you're right, Dr. Stemman, I really would like to visit with her school principal and let that person know how important she is to the coalition. And then she has been working with Emily, and Emily's just in county government as opposed to everyday interaction with children and parents because of the school. So I think working in concert together, they can do a nice job of continuing to help us roll out that communication for parents, and for constituents.
Mhm. And the information that she's been placing out there is links where they can go and actually see of how to get prepared for certain things and their involvement along with their parents. And we have seen where there's been some sheets out there where it gave you a list of items that you would need to have, put together for the children as well as the parents.
Mhm.
Yeah, during a time of an emergency. And the emergencies, can come from any walks of life. It doesn't have to be a hurricane. So we know that. And I think the one thing that Stephanie had talked about was something that they have not been faced with yet was tornadoes.
Mhm.
A tornado that would hit. And
Devastating.
then what do we have? How are we going to be able to handle that? And so that was one thing that she brought up. And I think Jessica with Partnership for Children had mentioned when we asked them some things that they wanted to begin to think about to add to the focus. She brought up the what was it? In the workplace, issues that occur in the workplace, but that was a little bit beyond with children. The children wasn't the focus there, I didn't think. So we kind of let that one simmer a little bit, but it is an emergency. Those things are emergencies, but it just didn't have the focus for children.
And when we talked to the lady at Antioch, she said, she hadn't even thought about, she said she knew she could shelter the children out there. When Matthew came through, it took away some roads, one out in that area. And if the kids were there where the parents couldn't get to them, she said, I hadn't even thought about how I'm going to feed these kids. She said, I know I can put a roof over their heads if the roof is still there, but how can I feed them? So that was something she was going to bring up to her board to see, what do we do? How can we have things put in place to take care of these emergencies?
Right. Were there did we do any printed materials? I know that we had limited resources other than the grant that came to employ the two of you all. I know early on we did some pens when we did something out at RCC. Is there any other printed material that we did?
Ms. Dencie, we've got some copies left from the Robeson County fact sheet that Jonathan had printed up for us. And I've got that information, that materials here with me. And then the fact sheet for the phase 1 and phase 2, which included Robeson County. And then there was a sheet that had the information put out in Spanish. So we were trying to reach out to the Spanish population as well. And so we do have some copies, not a whole lot, because we have used up those, and we do have some pens, and anything else that we have here, we're planning to take it by the
Right.
office at the end of the month.
And Dencie, if with that information, if that fact sheet is something that we could update and do it, we can print them. I've got in my new budget, I've got some capabilities to do some things.
Right. And I've seen one or two things that are out there that, as far as hurricane preparedness, a list of things you would need to have if you were cut off from the rest of the world. And there's some things out there. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, but I thought that might be something when you told me you had a little bit of a budget that would be good, especially even if we didn't print them for all parents, we were able to put them on bulletin boards or parent activity boards in schools, something where parents would see them, as well as using the Facebook page. So, maybe printing a limited quantity, but that's all something that we can can talk about and these two ladies are, are going to work on as we move forward.
Mhm.
Now, what else do you have to share with us? And then I'm gonna take a little minute and I'm gonna ask Miss Marcelle and Miss Delores, if they're so overwhelmed that don't have questions, or while we've got you here, do we have a couple of questions that you can field for us? If they have some and want to ask. But was there anything else that you felt like you needed to share with us?
All the information that Jonathan and Jeff had given us that we needed to do research on and look at, yes, it's a little bit overwhelming. I won't joke about that. But the toolbox came in handy with the information that's out there, and don't have to look at everything, but things that you think might be pertinent to, say, our area. I would take a look at that for sure. I think I ran across the list of materials that they gave us to look at, and that will be on the flash drive as well, in case somebody wants to go back and look at all of that, to give them an idea.
Is the link for the toolbox on the flash drive?
Oh, all of that stuff is, and that's going to be real simple to find. Everything that I've put out there, with the letters that we've sent out, there's been links for the Facebook, links for the toolbox. And now, as far as a sheet that's going to have all the links on it, I don't know that I have one of those, but you pull from what you've got and insert it, so it will be easy to find. I've got all that labeled on my computer, the links and where I can find that. So I'm sure that the ladies would do the same thing. And the information that we're going to give to them, they can take the most recent, and I think find a list of links that will be very important for them as they move forward. Let me see here. This is can be a little bit overwhelming, but I encourage you not to look at it that way. It takes a little time to get up to speed. The one thing I think is most important is to make sure that we help you get connected to those important stakeholders that were a part of the group and reel them back in, and help them see how important it is to move forward from where we're at, from where we've been with the pandemic, where we were fixing to head into with the hurricanes, that it's important for them to be a part of. And I think if I were going to do anything, that's what I would do first, is to make sure that that happens. Miss Dencie is awesome in terms of making those kinds of connections. Had it not been for her, Cindy and I would have been in a boat without the paddle, and hoping that we wouldn't drown. But it will come together. It made sense. I think it was about 4 months or so before I really felt like we knew kind of what we were trying to do. And the thing that kept me moving, or kept us moving, was to know that the awareness needed to be more brought to light for individuals that just hadn't thought about things when it comes to being prepared for emergencies and disasters. That what they had seen already, it's easy to forget once it's passed. And I think that's what needs to happen now, to be brought back to light, that it's going to hit again. I was thinking the other day about the timeline, and I said, well, 2 years. We've had 3 years, I think, since the last one. So if there's such a thing as being ready for one, we need to be ready for one.
And the mental part for children.
Yeah, and then the other piece is, we've got some folks on board in the coalition that's from,
Behavior, not behavior. Is it behavior?
no, that East Point
Mhm.
and the other agency down in Lumberton that has been addressing the mental aspects of what it's been like for the children during the pandemic, during the hurricanes. And the focus then of looking at the ACEs, and I think that's another piece that's going to be needs to be a part of, or should be a part of. And that's the adverse childhood experiences. And so some of the schools, I think, are looking at that along with some of the other groups as well, knowing that the children are in a difficult place right now and have been for some time. So let me stop there, and then let me just see if there is a question that the ladies would have specifically that we could try and answer.
My main question is, first of all, it is overwhelming, but I sort of like challenges. But first of all, did y'all always work in a pair when you did all of this, but you branched out and like certain entities, like there's 6 of the groups you mentioned. So did like did one of you handle 3 of these groups and the other 3, or you always work together? Did you branch out? Or were you always a team?
But you don't have.
We worked as a team, but you wouldn't have to. I made some calls when we first started. Whenever we traveled someplace, we traveled together. I think it's important for people to know who they're working with. And so that was one of the reasons why we did it as a team.
But you wouldn't necessarily have to do that. I mean, if you work it the way that you feel comfortable doing it.
And so at a certain point, did you feel like you had to see these entities in person, or you did a lot of it like with Zoom meetings or online or email?
Ms. Delores, I tell you what, when we started, knowing that we had that face-to-face was the best thing possible. When we went to Zoom, that was the greatest challenge that I've had working with the project.
Right.
That was a new skill. That was a skill that I didn't have, that I needed to learn. And so it was the best thing that could have happened. But yes, when we had to go to Zoom, it's almost like you're there with them, but you're not there with them. I felt like I could do so much more. We could do so much more if we were in person working with a group on certain things.
Right.
And maybe it'll get back to that way one day soon. I hope so. But if not, the Zoom can work. The meetings can work.
At the beginning, EOC was kind enough to let us use their meeting room. So we were able to provide a breakfast or food. So, food always kind of helps, the group get to know each other, see what each individual department in these groups are all about. Like I said, it's the first time that group came together as a team, and they worked on their little separate things, but now they were able to work together with the one common goal, being the children. Some of these groups had children focuses involved, but some of them did not. They had people that didn't have it separated as adults, children. Hadn't really thought about it that way. So I think that was an eye-opener for some of the groups now. Now they are included paragraphs, in their workplace for the children, because they did now say that they are different. They can't be treated like that adult.
Yeah.
Then naturally, from my point of view, I'm going to ask this. So did you get a lot of response? Were the Hispanics receptive to the help? Because sometimes they're standoffish. So did they receive the help you tried to offer them?
Well, now that was a new area, and the only interaction we've had with the Hispanic population was at an expo at RCC, and that was before everything shut down. And we actually tried to have conversations with the people that were coming into RCC for the expo, and they received that information well.
And it was good that we were able to have it in Spanish along with English, that they didn't feel like, the adults on our Spanish population, some of them can understand English and they do speak English, but they rely on that child.
The
to-
children were
to
with them?
explain.
They're
Yeah,
and-
interpreters.
So-
Ms. Delores, actually though, what they've said lets me know that that is an area that will be that's a new area that we're going to go into. And it's good that we've got you with that
Right.
background to be able for us to move forward with that. So that's pretty much a wide open area. for us.
Right.
And as I said, I like it. I like new challenges. It's good for me.
Right.
It
Uh-huh.
helps me as a person.
And I thought the same thing when we were told that you were coming on board, and I said, okay, that's gonna meet that population that we've not had an opportunity
Right.
to really reach out to. We've had information that we could pass on to them, but how did we know that they were getting what they needed?
Right.
Neither one of us, I don't think,
No.
can handle the language or communicate well with, and we didn't really have anyone in the coalition that I'm aware of that could reach out to the Spanish population,
Okay, thank
or
you.
the Hispanic population.
Do you have any questions, Ms. Marcelle?
I came into this meeting trying to understand the job description. And so I'm to kind of recap what I think I hear you saying to that I'm on the right page. As I understand it, it seems to be kind of spin-off of what we're doing here with you, Mr. Defreece. Awareness and preparedness for disasters, but we're utilizing community resources. That's our coalition. In a nutshell, did I pretty much get that? To include the children, more of the children.
With the focus being on children, yes, absolutely. I think pretty much making sure that they are not to be left out. And we've discovered that they were in the plans that people had in case of an emergency or disaster, how for children need. And so that's what we tried to do when we met with each organization.
Let me-
Froze up.
Ms. Sylvia?
Yeah.
I can hear you
Let
now.
me just give a quick example. During Matthew, the shelters that the county emergency surgery services set up all of the protocols were in place for adults. None of the protocols were in place for children.
Okay.
And so we were scrambling to try to, once we knew that children were going to be in a shelter for 3, 4, 5 days a week, 10 days, then there's a real scramble to figure out what to do and how to do. As a result of this coalition, emergency preparedness now has protocols in place to cover children being in an emergency shelter for a short time or an extended period of time. And that's come out of this coalition. And that's a very tangible example of how the set is changing to understand how important it is to include children in the equation of emergencies. Okay?
And to go along with that, we had the opportunity before things shut down that we were a part of a child-friendly spaces training in Wilmington, where and I think that was Jonathan Spear. Did he spearhead that?
He did.
Yeah.
And we brought back
And-
for social services.
Yeah, we had a box of tools for children, and they showed us how you could kind of separate, rope off places, squares, little small places for children, and then maybe provide someone there to keep the children occupied and working. See, while families had to go and get things taken care of on the other side for their homes that they had been moved out of. Just things in place to keep the children safe and occupied while they were in the shelter. So they learned a lot of things along the way, realizing that things could be done a little differently. Not that they couldn't have done it, but you can always make life a little bit better, is what I'm trying to say. And so they learned some of those new tricks of the trade. And we had some representatives from social services that attended that meeting as well, from Robertson County.
And Red Cross.
Red Cross did too.
And what I'll say is, the things that y'all are doing with Ms. Defreece are specific to South Lumberton, but some of those same activities and things that you're generating can be productively used to have prepared in advance in case of an emergency, so that what Sylvia was just talking about, if there was a shelter set up at Lumberton High School because of a hurricane or whatever, then we could have packets of materials already ready that would go out with all of these activities and things that somebody could take a group of children and they would have prepared activities that they could work with them with. Those are things that she's talking about, having, being resourceful and having things that will entertain, but also be educational at the same time. So, that's something that some of what you do with Ms. Defreece specifically will overlap with what you'll be doing under Dencie's direction as well. So.
Sylvia, I think I told you that I was going to be out of town for the meeting next week, the Zoom meeting. And what we will do here is, well, are we frozen here? Is work together with you on an agenda, and Ms. Marcelle feel comfortable with everything that's going on. And Dr. Stedman, I'm coordinating with you for that so that everybody feels comfortable.
Okay.
A couple of days.
And that's what I asked Dr. Stedman about, whether or not you wanted me to go ahead and send you the agenda as what we tried to do before. This last meeting, there was a speaker that was in-house, and and I was not able to be a part of that, but yes, we can do that. If you've got something that you want to add to the agenda, I can fix that up for us and have it ready to go. I'm going to send a reminder out to the members Saturday, I think is what I've listed on my book to do. As a reminder, along with that, it's going to go the PowerPoint presentation that our speaker provided at that last meeting. It didn't come in time enough on the first invitation that went out to the group. So I'll send that out on the 28th, and that'll give you an idea of what that was all about, in case you weren't really a part of that one.
And Sylvia, if you would get, and Dencie, if you'll get Marcelle and Ms. Delores, they can attend that meeting so that they can basically see what's going on and get their information, and so they'll have the link to join as well. And that's next Thursday at 9 o'clock, right?
Right.
Next Thursday, the 2nd of September at 9 o'clock.
Okay, well, now I had thought that the ladies would be on board at that meeting, right? That is correct.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, all right. And at that point in time, then I'll just make sure that it's on the agenda that we're gonna let the group know, the ones that are in the meeting, that Cindy and I are stepping away from the initiative, the project, and that our two new ladies will come on board. And so that's what I had planned to do as well. And so after that, then, like I said, we'll be available for what's needed. Just kind of let us know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sylvia, I think it would be nice when you sent the email, to introduce both of them and have just a sentence or two about their backgrounds and what they've been working with.
Uh,
So that there's some knowledge prior to that meeting of what's going to be happening. And then I see part of that meeting is people just introducing themselves and giving them some background so that they begin to meet the members of the coalition and have a good sense of what sector they're coming from.
Well, please give my email to both the ladies and ask them to send me some information that they're comfortable with me sharing. And I'll make sure that I do that when I send the reminder out.
Right, thank you.
And I will say this, Sylvia, and on the agenda, I think it would be good at this meeting to include Miss Defreece and give her an opportunity to briefly talk about what she's doing in the South Lumberton area. Also, Partnership for Children has just started a new initiative, and while they can't talk about all of it, Jessica needs an opportunity to show how KB Reynolds and ACES, what she's doing there, how all this ties in. So I would give Jessica, and I'll reach out to Jessica and just say, Dr. Stevenson, would you give her maybe 5 minutes to say what they're doing as well for the ones that were not a part of that meeting. So I just think it all ties together.
Good. I'll do that. And is there anything else then that we need to look at? And if you guys will send that to me now, we should, if we're able to leave, and that's still on hold too, but if we're able to leave, we won't be back in until Friday afternoon, late. And so Saturday would be my work time. So if it's in the inbox, then I can have that ready and move it out at least by Monday.
Okay,
Okay.
that sounds great. This has been a good meeting.
Their email addresses.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Me-
I know y'all are trying to get ready to get out the door on vacation, so I'm not gonna keep you, but, I feel like this has been and I do want you to know, Mr. Freeze has been sitting across the room. Let me give you a little time to shout out. There you go.
Hello, how are you? Very good meeting.
Hi there.
I enjoyed listening.
All righty.
Hey,
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Have a
for
good trip.
sharing.
You're
Sylvia,
quite
Cindy,
welcome.
thank y'all so much, and y'all be safe and enjoy your vacation.
All right.